Preview that's being held live on Thursday, October 11 at 7 p.m. We are in the Great Hall in Plymouth Town Hall. I'd like to introduce and thank people who have joined me this evening as part of the panel. To my right, Kenneth Tavares, Chair of the Board of Selectmen, Melissa Arrighi, Town Manager, Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance, Harry Salerno is the Chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee, and he is joined by Kevin Canty, the Vice Chair, and Harry Helms, also Vice Chair. Second Vice Chair, and we're also joined by Dr. Gary Maestas, the Superintendent of Schools. The purpose of the preview is to give an overview of the articles and the motions that are coming before Plymouth's Fall Annual Town Meeting scheduled for Saturday, October 20 at 8 a.m. at Plymouth North High School in the Center for Performing Arts. We'll begin on that morning with some opening ceremonies, and shortly after some initial direction from me and from the Advisory and Finance Committee, we'll be going right into our procedural motions, followed by the substantive motions. I would like to tell you that we do have a motion for adjourned sessions on the following Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evening. And then we have three other procedural votes. First, we have David Peck, who is Precinct 4 and a member of the Charter Review Committee, is moving to change the order of the articles to hear Article 20 before Article 4. And that's a 2/3 vote. After that, we have a similar motion from Randolph Parker, who also moves to change the order of the articles to hear Article 20 on Monday evening at 7 p.m. And Alan Costello also moves to change the order of the articles to hear Article 35 before Article 5. Those are three procedural motions that will be deliberated upon at the start of the meeting. We would then go into the articles. At this particular town meeting, although we have 35 articles, we have multiple motions under Article 9, the Community Preservation Article, and in Article 20, which is the Charter Review Article, we have 45 motions, all of which will be treated as main motions. There'll be therefore over 80 main motions at this fall annual town meeting. But for Article 1, we have no motion. There would be no action. Article 2A, we're also going to divide that into separate motions, and beginning with 2A1, Mr. Salerno.
In Article 2A, the Advisory and Finance Committee made a series of votes broken down by category that's described on page 7 in your book. Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. We have a series of articles, series of votes, excuse me, broken down as described in page 6 of your report. Each of these items is broken down into, there are a motion regarding the line 31, which is the police department, a separate one, line 34 for the fire department, another one, line 34 and 36 regarding the fire department, and then some other additional spending items in total.
For those of you that are here with us this evening, you will see that we have multiple main motions under Article 2A. They're broken out 2A1, 2A2, 2A3, 2A4, and finally 2A5. So we have a total of 5 motions here. We also have people who are available at town meeting to answer questions or in advance. For example, in 2A1, it might be the police chief, Michael Buttieri, or in 2A2, it could be the fire chief. All of these are majority vote, and they will be roll call votes, and we will once again have electronic voting. Assistant Town Moderator Nicole Manfredi will address town meeting at the start of the session regarding the electronic voting. There have been a few changes. The electronic voting vendor will be seated on the opposite side of the Center for Performing Arts in order to facilitate the ease of distribution and collection of the handsets. Are there any questions or comments on Article 2A, any of the 1 through 5? We would then move to Article 3. Yes. Could you come up to the podium and use the microphone and identify yourself? This is the town meeting preview, coming to you live October 11th.
I'm Don Williams, Precinct 8, and the question is on the firemen that we will be getting.
Excuse me, could you turn your mic on, please?
Turn the mic on. So,
I'm sorry.
John Williams, welcome.
I'm sorry. I'm Don Williams, Precinct 8, and a town meeting member. I'm just curious as to whether there's any stipulation of that grant money for the firemen that they continue to be employed, because I've heard people in my precinct saying that, well, what happens after the 3 years? We have to pay full salary, and how do we deal with that?
Mrs. Lerner?
That matter was discussed at the Finance Committee meeting. These are funding for full-time permanent positions. The grant wouldn't have applied otherwise. As to whether or not the firemen would be kept on as the time goes by, they're full-time positions. The intention is that they will be. Of course, every year the budget stands on its own, and decisions made in 3 years no one can predict. But they are intended to be full-time positions. They wouldn't have applied if it wasn't otherwise.
Also, we'll hear from Lynn Barrett, Melissa Arrighi.
Thank you. Just to clarify, there is no requirement in the grant that positions be kept on after the grant ends.
Further questions? If not, we'd move on to Article 4A, and again, multiple motions under 4A. They've been grouped. We have 4A through 4G, 4I through 4L. They'll be taken together with 4H being separate. Mr. Salerno.
In item 4A, the Advisory and Finance Committee is recommending town meeting approve this appropriation. The Hedge Road Pump Station needs to be completed by spring of 2019 to be ready to receive flow from the new Cottage Park development. It was a unanimous decision.
And you'll see under the 4A articles, the first grouping would be a majority and a roll call. The 4H will be a 2/3 because there is also borrowing involved. Mrs. Lerner, anything to add?
Well, I can comment on each of the Article 4 items if you would like.
And could you explain why all of them are grouped together except 4H, which is separate?
Well, each of them was presented as a separate line item. Each is a separate spending item. They're also by department. So in your report on page 9, you can see the breakdown of the departments that are affected by these items. They were significant items, and the Finance Committee reviewed each one individually.
And the Board of Selectmen are in support of most of these articles and motions, with the exception of a few which we'll be talking about under Article 20. Article 5 is a 2/3 and roll call as well. Mr. Salerno?
Article 5, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 5 in a unanimous vote of 12-0-0. Approval of this article will amend Article 9C of the April 2017 annual town meeting and Article 17 of April 7th, 2018 special town meeting to appropriate an additional amount of $1,200,000 for design and reconstruction of the roof and HVAC system at the main library branch.
And we have people available, including the library director, the facilities manager. Again, it's a 2/3 vote roll call. It's not unanimous. Moving on, Article 6, Mr. Salerno.
In a unanimous vote of 12-0-0, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve this article. Approval of this article will allow the sewer department to continue with this project that was put out to bid this past spring and is under contract.
Thank you. This is 2/3 roll call, and Chad Whiting, the Assistant Wastewater Superintendent, available for questions. Article 7, Mr. Salerno.
In a unanimous vote of 13-0-0, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve this budget amendment, which is a decrease of $9,500 for item 9A-13 and a decrease of $24,000 for item 9A-16.
It's a majority vote and a roll call if it is not unanimous. Under Article 8, we have no motion, there'll be no action. 9A, we have a number of 9A, B, various Article 9 motions in connection with the community preservation. We've been advised by the Community Preservation Committee. There will not be a presentation on all of the main motions. There will, however, be some presentations on a few of them. Mr. Salerno.
Well, on Article 9A, the Advisory and Finance Committee unanimously recommends approval to execute a perpetual conservation restriction on a parcel of land off Boot Road in exchange for the release of 1 acre of land at Oberry Street. On Article 9B, the recommendation is 1110, recommending approval for $1,400,000 of community preservation funds to be granted to the Plymouth Housing Authority for acquiring an affordable housing restriction for 24 units of rental property. On Article 9C, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends approval in a unanimous vote of 12-0-0. Approval will authorize $170,000 of community preservation funds to be granted to Habitat for Humanity to construct 3 units of deed-restricted affordable housing. Article D is a unanimous 12-0-0, excuse me, to borrow $2,618,000 to grant to the General Society of Mayflower Descendants for restoration and rehabilitation of the stone facade of the 1898 National Memorial Meeting House in Town Square, and to authorize the selectmen to accept an historic preservation restriction. 9E is unanimous 12-0-0, would approve $380,000 of community preservation funds for the restoration of the 1749 courthouse. Article 9F, in a vote of 11-0-1, that's one abstention, to reduce the debt service for the budget by $24,642.
All of the articles under all the main motions on Article 9 would be majority except 9D, which involves borrowing. It'll be a 2/3 vote. Much like Article 2 and Article 4, Article 9 has multiple main motions, 6 to be exact, and it is always possible for town meeting to later move to reconsider action that's taken on any main motion. In this particular case, it would not be a motion to reconsider Article 9, but rather to reconsider any one of the main motions under Article 9, as would be the case for Article 2, Article 4, and certainly coming up with Article 20. Article 10 is a majority vote and a roll call. Mr. Salerno.
In a unanimous vote of 12-0-0, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve this article, which would authorize $200,000 for the Parks Department to reconstruct the playground surface at Forges Field only.
And Ted Bubbins, the Park Superintendent, available for further information. Article 11, Mr. Salerno.
The Advisory Finance Committee, in a unanimous vote of 11-0-0, recommends town meeting approve this article, which will allow the town to borrow $200,000 through the Massachusetts Water Pollution Abatement Trust Fund to fund Title V betterment loan programs.
A 2/3 vote, roll call, if it's not unanimous. Lee Hartman, Director of Planning Development, available to answer questions. Article 12, Mr. Salerno.
The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve this article, which would transfer $990,930.31 from free cash into the Pavement Management Debt Stabilization Fund.
Majority vote, roll call, if it's not unanimous. You'll see that this particular packet this evening is a work in progress. In fact, I believe, gotten through 34 of the 45 motions under Article 20. And further, there's going to be another motions meeting next Thursday morning to prepare for town meeting. Therefore, I would ask people who wish to either be recognized as a speaker on a speaker's list, or if you have a motion, that you contact me as soon as possible, since I cannot promise that if you wait till the day before town meeting that I'll be able to accommodate your request. You might also know that procedural motions are taken in the order in which they're received. So for example, although Mr. Parker contacted me today with his motion to change the order, I received Mr. Peck's motion last week, and therefore his will be heard first, and Mr. Parker's will be heard second, even though both motions deal with changing the order of when to hear Article 20. Town meeting members also throughout town meeting will be given speaking priority at this time based on our current rules. And if a town meeting member moves to close debate, we won't have any argument on the motion to close debate. We will recognize people who may still wish to speak, and that requires a 2/3 vote. Mr. Salerno, Article 13.
In a unanimous vote of 13-0-0, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve this article, which would rescind the bylaw regarding school custodial details, which would eliminate this fund and transfer the balance to a new revolving fund as a result of changing legislation.
It's a majority vote. A roll call if it's not unanimous. Dr. Maestas is available to answer any questions anyone may have in preparation for this town meeting article. And now we move to Article 14. It's a 2/3 vote. A roll call if it's not unanimous. Mr. Salerno.
The Advisory and Finance Committee, in a vote of 11-0, recommends town meeting approve this article, which would transfer the care, custody, and control of the Oak Street School property from the school committee to the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of conveyance.
Melissa Arrighi, Town Manager, available to answer questions. I would tell you that currently our town bylaw requires we recess within 2 hours from the start of town meeting. We will therefore have a morning recess that we would anticipate that it will begin no later than 10 a.m. The lunch recess will be at or about 12 noon. We might also anticipate that there may be a motion to adjourn at 3, depending on how far we are on the warrant. If we're close to completing the entire warrant, we may extend it. Otherwise, we'd adjourn to another date. Article 15, Mr. Salerno.
The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 15 in a vote of 11-0. Approval of this article will transfer the care, custody, and control of the school administration building property at 253 South Meadow Road from the school committee to the Board of the Selectmen for the purposes of conveyance.
It's a 2/3 vote. A roll call if it's not unanimous. Again, the town manager. If you do have a motion that you wish to submit or contact me regarding a speaker's list, you can call me at 508-746-1464. You can also email me at fst@plymouthlaw.com. Article 16, Mr. Salerno.
In a unanimous vote of 12-0-0, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve this article, which changes the bylaw to help strengthen the requirements to require connections to the sewer system.
And you'll see that this motion refers to, as found on page 289 of the report and recommendations. This is the book that has been prepared. It has been distributed to town meeting members. We also have a supplement to the report, which is also a blue cover. You will have a motion packet that'll be distributed on the morning of town meeting. Article 17 is withdrawn. Article 18, Mr. Salerno.
The Advisory and Finance Committee, in a unanimous vote of 12-0-0, is recommending approval of this article, which will amend the bylaws regarding junk dealers and collectors and will add language for requiring more electronically transmitted detail for jewelry transactions.
Police chief is available to answer questions. The majority roll call. Article 19, Mr. Salerno.
In a unanimous vote of 13-0-0, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve this article, which will record the official acceptance of Mass General Law 200A9A disposition by town meeting, which will codify the current practice.
It's a majority vote and a roll call. And this now brings us to Article 20 for tonight's preview presentation. However, if either of the motions to change the order is successful, then this will actually come up after either Article 3 or at 7 PM on Monday evening, at least as related to the two motions that I've received. This evening, for those people who are here with me, you'll find that we have begun to draft many of the motions, and they're presented in a way that we hope will be understandable. For example, motion number 2, Mr. Salerno moves a town meeting vote to replace the words Board of Selectmen with Select Board as word substitute throughout the charter. So this is a little different from some other language people may have seen that related to a different way in which to present this. I'm going to invite first Mr. Salerno to make some general comments, since they are moving most of the motions, to be followed by Dennis Bagley, Chair of the Charter Review Committee. Mr. Salerno.
Thank you. As Mr. Trifletti indicated, there are some 45 motions regarding Article 20. The Advisory and Finance Committee has heard every one of them and has voted on every one of them. And we'll be rendering our advice and opinion on every one of them as we go through them. So I'm not going to bore everybody tonight with all of that information. Many of us have heard it many times. But we will have commentary on each one. We did approve many of them, some we did not, and some we modified. So.
And not only did the Advisory and Finance Committee hold hearings, but also the Board of Selectmen, and currently we have some motions being brought forth by the Board of Selectmen if they were not approved by the Advisory and Finance Committee, but were approved by the Board. Mr. Tavares, what are the plans of the Board of Selectmen to further review this matter?
The board, at its meeting on Tuesday, is going to go back through a number of these articles to see if there has been any change of heart on behalf of the board. There are a couple of them that Vice Chairman Provenzano and I are going to present to the board to be revoted. And after the vote on Tuesday, we'll be ready to make these motions at the last motions meeting next week.
So again, town meeting members, you'll have an opportunity to vote separately on each of the motions under Article 20. There'll be essentially 45 main motions. Mr. Bagley, Chair of the Charter Review Committee, if you could come forward and make a few comments regarding the overview of the charter proposals, as well as how can people get more information if they have questions as they prepare for town meeting.
Sure. We're going to be at all the caucuses as we proceed the next week. So we were at 4 already, and the rest will be coming up next week. So we're available. You can look at our website. We have information posted there, all our minutes, prior agendas. Also, on your page, you have all the information. Also, all these documents are also available for anybody that wants to download and look at them and follow along and be prepared for a town meeting on Saturday, the 20th. That's really all I have.
Anybody have any questions? If not, I would just say special thanks to Dennis and his committee, and Michelle Turner, and certainly on the Advisory and Finance Committee. We appreciate all the hard work from Jeanette White, and Lynn Barrett has been joining us as well in trying to prepare for town meeting. This has been a fairly Herculean task, and we are so pleased at how far we've come with still quite a bit of time until town meeting. Thank you, Mr. Bagley. And at this time, Article 21 is withdrawn. Article 22, Mr. Salerno.
The Advisory and Finance Committee will, in a unanimous vote of 11-0-0, recommends town meeting approve Article 22. Approval of this article will add the language "in any residential district" to the zoning bylaw.
So 2/3 in a roll call vote if it is not unanimous. The same is true for Article 23, Mr. Salerno.
The Advisory and Finance Committee will recommend town meeting approve Article 23 in a vote of 11-0-0. Approval of this zoning bylaw amendment will define commercial dog kennels and restrict new commercial dog kennels to approved locations.
Lee Hartman, Director of Planning Development, would be available prior to town meeting. There'll be coffee available in the cafeteria outside the Center for Performing Arts. There will also be refreshments during the morning recess, and lunch will be provided by the Plymouth Public Schools. Article 24, Mrs. Lerno.
The Advisory Finance Committee, in a unanimous vote of 11-0-0, recommends town meeting approve Article 24, which will amend the zoning bylaw to revise the boundaries of the Aquifer Protection District, restrict high-risk uses, and define allowed and special permit uses within that district.
Two-thirds in a roll call. Lee Hartman will be available. Article 25, we're going to be receiving a presentation from Lee Hartman, Director of Planning Development, and he will actually speak to Articles 25, 26, and 27 when he makes his presentation. However, town meeting will be voting each article separately. Mr. Salerno.
In Article 25, in a unanimous vote of 11-0-0, the Advisory and Finance Committee will recommend town meeting approve Article 25. Approval of this article will create the new zoning district, Cedarville Village Enterprise District, and rezone 50 acres of residential land and 24 acres of general commercial land to the new zoning district for light industrial and commercial uses.
Thank you. And for town meeting members, Mr. Tavares has mentioned that he has a meeting next Tuesday, the Tuesday before town meeting. I would also remind you that all of the major boards have meetings posted for the morning of town meeting, and therefore it is possible that at these meetings, a board could take action. Mr. Salerno, you in fact have a posting for a meeting?
Saturday morning,
Yes,
7:30.
7:30 a.m., and it would be in one of the rooms right near the Center for Performing Arts. Article 26, Mr. Salerno.
In a unanimous vote of 11-0-0, the Advisory and Finance Committee will recommend town meeting approve this article, which will transfer the control of the rezoned land from Article 25 to the Board of Selectmen to sell or transfer under such terms and conditions as they deem appropriate.
This is a two-thirds vote, does not require a roll call. I can tell you that if it is not a unanimous, it is likely, unless there are a few people dissenting, we'll probably have the roll call vote on this and other articles. Article 27, Mr. Salerno.
In a vote of 10-1-0, the Advisory and Finance Committee will recommend town meeting approve this article, which will transfer control of 135 acres of tax title land, as shown in the chart in your reports, to the Conservation Commission for protection as conservation land.
Two-thirds vote. Thank you. Article 28, Mr. Salerno.
In a unanimous vote of 11-0-0, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommend town meeting approve this article, which will accept a permanent easement for the public safety transmitter to remain on the water tank as long as necessary.
Lee Hartman will be available along with the fire chief. Article 29.
In a unanimous vote of 13-0-0, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve this article, which conveys control of a 5.7 acre tax title property off Dinah Path to the Herring Pond Wampanoag Tribal Council, Inc., to protect and preserve this ancestral burial ground. They will welcome the public to continue to access the existing trail systems, and the town will reserve easement rights for drainage.
Two-thirds vote, a roll call if it's not unanimous. This is one of our petitioned articles. Melissa Ferretti is going to be available for the petitioner. She is president of the Herring Pond Wampanoag Tribe. Also Patrick Farab, the planning technician. Any questions? Article 30, no motion, we have no action. Article 31, I don't see a named person yet. I don't know if we know yet who's going to be moving this. But it's
We haven't heard back from.
a motion
Mrs.
to
Stryer.
amend Chapter 2, Section 7 of the town charter. Mr. Salerno.
In a vote of 3-10-0, The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting not approve Article 31. The majority felt there was ample opportunity for residents to provide input on articles prior to town meeting. In addition, town meeting members are elected and are charged with representing their precinct and community. This article would defeat the purpose of representative town meeting.
And this is not being presented by the Board of Selectmen. Mr. Tavares, the Selectmen did not support this?
No.
Thank you. Article 32, we have no motion. Article 33, we have no motion. Article 34, we have a motion from Richard Neely. He is from Precinct 15. He moves the town vote to amend the Plymouth zoning bylaws according to the following proposed bylaw to add a workforce housing district for the purpose of providing working-class residents with affordable housing. And you'll see the text contained within the motion book. And there'll be a petitioner presentation. At town meeting, we allow petitioners 15 minutes to speak, and all other speakers 5 minutes. And I don't see Mr. Zuckerman, the petitioner, in the room. Therefore, I will go to Mr. Salerno.
In a unanimous vote of 0-13-0, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting not approve Article 34. The committee felt unanimously that due to the absence of any actual bylaw language being presented to the Finance Committee, the article could not move forward with our blessing.
Mr. Tavares, on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, as to this petitioned article from Mr. Zuckerman.
We did not hear this article. The petitioner didn't show.
Okay. So, again, we do not have recommendations from either the Advisory and Finance Committee or the Board of Selectmen. This particular article, as you look through your packet, you'll see that there's fairly extensive language regarding a proposed bylaw, and therefore, town meeting members are encouraged to read it in advance of town meeting. It is a majority vote and a roll call if it is not unanimous. We would next move to Article 35, Mr. Salerno, and again, this we would expect might be heard earlier if Mr. Costello's motion to change the order is successful. Mr. Salerno.
In a unanimous vote of 12-0-0, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve this article, which will authorize $180,000 for a watershed assessment study of the White Horse Beach, Bartlett Pond, and Beaver Dam River area to monitor and determine the scope of bacterial contamination. Resolving this issue to help protect the public health priority is the primary objective.
Majority vote, a roll call if it's not unanimous. Any comments or questions from anyone? If not, at this point in our town meeting, unless there are any other motions, there will be a motion to dissolve the town meeting, and if that's successful, that would complete any action on any of the articles contained in the warrant. I would like again to take this opportunity to thank people who have come this evening to be on the panel. Mr. Harry Salerno from the Advisory and Finance Committee, who's joined by his first vice chair, Kevin Canty, his second vice chair, Harry Helms. There are 15 members on the committee. Also, Kenneth Tavares, the chair of the Board of Selectmen, joined by Melissa Origi, the town manager, Lynn Barrett, director of finance, and finally, Dr. Gary Maestas, who is the superintendent for Plymouth Public Schools. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. If you have further questions, we hope that you'll contact the people who are available as resources, and that you will join us at Plymouth Fall Annual Town Meeting, scheduled for Saturday, October 20 at 8 a.m. Thank you and good evening.